Whenever you're ready.
So I'm Ryan Lindsay, and today we're going to be debating on animal testing. Our affirmative proposition is that the U.S. should abolish the use of animals for testing of scientific research. Our first claim, the significance claim, is that animal testing should be completely abolished because it is inhumane towards animals. Our second inherency claim is that the Animal Welfare Act of 1966 fails to protect animals used for experimentation. And then our third solvency claim is that there are alternative research methods that don't use animals and that can be just as effective, if not better, than using animals as test subjects. Okay, so for our first significance claim, animal testing should be completely abolished because it is inhumane towards animals. From a book called The Rights of Animals by Deborah A. Miller, over 18 million animals are used in research and experimentation in the United States. Currently, the rights and well-being of animals are emphasized. So, from a book by Kimberly Masters Evans called Animal Rights, living animals used as specimens to test drugs and products, practice medical and surgical procedures, and investigate diseases and bodily systems are called laboratory animals. Laboratory animals often die from these procedures or are euthanized by researchers after they are no longer needed. So either they can die during these procedures used when they're being experimented on, and once they're no longer needed, they're just put down. So these aren't very fulfilling lives for animals. And then from an article by Richard Dawkins from the Richard Dawkins Foundation of Science and Reason, says that at the very least I conclude that we have no general reason to think that non-human animals feel pain less acutely than we do, and we should in any case give them the benefit of the doubt. And so he goes on to say that practices such as branding cattle, castration without anesthetic, and bullfighting should be treated as morally equivalent to doing the same thing to human beings. And so from an article by Dr. Ray Brief, Do Animals Feel Pain? He says that today we know that all vertebrates, animals with a backbone, have the same nerves that humans have. In other words, they feel pain. And he goes on to say that animal testing is very painful. An animal is placed in a highly artificial environment. Rats are crammed into cages, dogs are not allowed to socialize or exercise, and cats are frequently not allowed to groom. In addition to being separated from their mothers and families, they do not live what is for them a normal life. The laboratory is very stressful, animals can sense death, and their compatriots are dying all around them. For our inherency claim, the Animal Welfare Act of 1966 fails to protect animals used for experimentation. We have the book by Kimberly Masters Evans, that says that AWA, or the Animal Welfare Act, regulations are enforced by the Animal Care Unit of the USDA, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. These regulations govern housing and care of animals, include licensing, registration, veterinary, and record-keeping requirements. Covered facilities must register with the USDA. The AWA does not apply to cold-blooded animals or to rats, mice, and birds. These animals do not fall under the definition of animal written into the law. The condition was made permanent by the May 2002 as a part of new federal legislation. The AWA does cover dogs and cats, rabbits, primates, guinea pigs, hamsters, marine mammals, and other warm-blooded animals. And from a book by Margaret C. Jasper called Animal Rights Law, she says, critics of the Act's power to truly protect animals argue that the 1985 amendments purport to recognize that animals involved in biomedical experiments have interests which should be protected. However, the Act still permits the animals to be used for any purpose that is deemed necessary to the experiment. This is no matter how painful or straining the experiment may be. As the animal activists, rights activists may argue, experiments may deport these from standards if the research facility properly documents that such a deviation is necessary to the experiment. So basically, they can do whatever they want to the animals if they can say it's necessary for the experiment to go on. And then lastly, from an article by Crystal Schaefer, USDA, who is an American Anti-Vivisection Society, the outreach director, says that some veterinary medical officers, also known as VMOs, believe that because there is little, if no consequence for violating the AWA, there are more than twice the number of repeat violators in the recent eastern region than in the western region. And she says that many of the VMOs interviewed stated that they took a good faith approach to their inspections, relying on the facilities to provide accurate information regarding the number of animals used and the number of protocols conducted. So basically, they're trusting the facilities to give them accurate numbers on this, and that's not very accurate at all if the facility is going to be doing certain experiments. So our solvency claim, there are alternative research methods that don't use animals that can be just as effective, if not better, than using animals as test subjects. From vivisection.info.org, using computers, researchers now can gather and analyze human population data at an unprecedented rate. Unfortunately, animal experimentation often impedes the ready acceptance of epidemiological evidence. And so cigarette smoke, alcohol, asbestos, arsenic, and benzene are just a few of the harmful substances that, according to animal tests, are safe for humans to ingest. However, epidemiological research has conclusively proven all of them to be hazardous to humans. And lastly, from the book by Deborah A. Miller, in 2004, a British medical journal, a study concluded that scientific claims on behalf of animal experimentation were largely anecdotal or not necessarily true. And they also state that in 2006, revealed that animal experiments predicted human outcomes only in a third of the cases studied. And then lastly, the USDA administration shows that only 92% of drugs which pass animal trials are found to be unsafe or ineffective in human trials and never reach the market.